It is the 7th day of March, so pretty early in the year 2024, but late in the legislative session maybe? We got some insight on that question earlier this morning. Members of the Idaho Capitol Press Corps, including myself, we sat down with legislative leaders from the Idaho House and Senate. And the indication from leaders is that the goals have the session wrap up by the end of the month. Specifically, Friday, March 29th is the target date. It's also Good Friday. Maybe it will be. All right, whatever. Anyway, no matter what it is, though, lawmakers have a lot of things to tackle before they call it a sine die. But in the Idaho House, there's been some frustration in recent days about the pace of legislation, things getting held up. We've seen requests for legislation to be held on the calendar or moved all the way to the bottom. And we get the feeling from some lawmakers that they've had enough waiting. They want to have action. So I asked leaders in the House for their perspective on this.
When you have big issues, you keep doing the lobbying. That lobbying's going on, but get to the point when it's on the floor, you need to move forward. Some of those bills too will have follow-up bills that will replace them, and that makes it tough too, but they need to move faster. And that was kind of what you saw. You guys, it's time to move. We want to shut this thing down. We got to get moving. And that's why you saw the majority leader's comments of either ready or not. And if not, we're going to move it far enough down that we don't have to worry about it going forward.
I think they're very controversial bills that probably, in some instances, may have some very serious legal problems. So I think it was probably prudent to give a little bit more time to figure out, are these even constitutional? What unintended consequences are they going to have? I'm good with that. I'm good with more attention being paid to bills that may have real fallout.
So the only thing that lawmakers have to do before they go home is pass budgets. So we will see how the rest plays out. The goal, again, is to be done 3 weeks from tomorrow. Now, an interesting topic that we saw Republican and Democratic leaders essentially agree on this morning, legal guidance from the Attorney General's office about proposed legislation. So traditionally, under the previous administration, lawmakers could take a proposed bill to the AG's office, whether they wrote it themselves or somebody else, and they would basically ask for a legal opinion on it, or what would the challenges be legally if this piece of proposed legislation became law. But lawmakers say that, the previous AG administration under Lawrence Wasden, they got that done without much problem. They tell us, though, that the new administration under AG Raul Labrador, they operate differently. Lawmakers discuss the realities that it presents.
We are doing the best job we can to guess in the dark, Google, try to find law school interns to poke into this stuff for us. It's not a viable situation right now, and we're going to be making mistakes unless we address this. So I am profoundly unhappy with the current status quo. Right now, I think we're operating in legal darkness, and it's a real problem.
There are discussions that go on, and he does provide information, I think, to members when they ask questions.
Senator Winter summed it up well. We're getting along really well with the Attorney General. We're talking and things are moving in the right direction. There's just this hiccup on the opinion issue. And I would assume that if it's not resolved soon, you will see that bill come out and it will probably pass this time. That puts a time limit. So because now it's very bipartisan, the concern about not being able to get some help from the AG's office.
So the Attorney General's office in Idaho Code, they have the responsibility of giving the legal opinions and the legislation that Speaker Moyle talked about. We kind of put a time constraint on that, so we will follow that. The idea was also tossed out this morning that maybe some legal experts could be shifted from the AG's office over to legislative services. So I reached out to the AG's office on this one. I wanted their perspective, and a spokesman gave me a really detailed and extended explanation showing their perspective from a much different angle. Statement tells me in part, quote, "We have responded to 36 legislator inquiries in 2024 so far, sometimes orally and sometimes in writing, and they will get to more soon." The AG's office also outlined the issue from their perspective, saying that our office will provide a written opinion and/or oral consultation about a bill for a legislator who is a sponsor of the bill. Historically, opinions of the Office of Attorney General were regularly requested by legislators who were not a sponsor of the bill, and then that opinion was used as a weapon to defeat bills in committee hearings and on the floor. Statement goes on to say that the practice is not appropriate. AG's office goes on to also explain that if the Office of the Attorney General issued a formal written opinion identifying some possible constitutional issues in a bill, well, that could undermine their ability to defend it later on if lawmakers pass it, and they essentially would have ignored the AG's opinion. So we'll see if lawmakers continue to push this issue.